What if one day you stood in front of a fast food restaurant and bitterly realized that even the cheapest meal on the menu now can also hurt your wallet? As America edges closer to a recession, it's not Wall Street that's collapsing first, it's the corner fast food restaurants that millions rely on to survive. According to the National Restaurant Association, nearly 1 in 6 fast food locations is at risk of closing. Ingredient costs have soared over 7%, while the federal minimum wage has remained frozen at $7.25 an hour since 2009. A $5 combo used to buy warmth, and a full stomach after a long day's work? Now, it barely buys a side of fries. Fast food was never just food. It was a shelter for millions of everyday Americans with low income. And if these places vanish, so does the last piece of affordable comfort in a country that once promised no one would be left behind. Today, we look at 10 fast food chains on the verge right now and ask what's really at stake when America's last cheap meal begins to disappear. This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. Number 1, McDonald's. How did we get to the point that even a Happy Meal feels like a luxury in the past 2 years alone? McDonald's has shut down over 100 locations in lower-income neighborhoods. Nationwide, the average price of a combo meal has soared by more than 70% in the last decade, from $5.65 in 2014 to well over $10 today. Some cities report even higher prices. And while the lights stay on in wealthier suburbs where kiosks, oat milk, lattes, and eco-friendly packaging are the norm in struggling communities, those golden arches are going dim. There was a time when $5 could buy more than food. It bought memories. A father driving home from work could swing by the drive-thru and still have enough left in his pocket for gas. A grandmother could take her grandson out for a Sunday lunch after church without checking her bank balance. For many working families, McDonald's wasn't just fast, it was nearly the only thing that was accessible, familiar, affordable. And for a brief moment, it made life feel normal. But in 2025, that sense of normal is vanishing. And this quiet disappearance is more than just an inconvenience. It is a sign of how far the country is drifting from its promise of fairness. A retired woman in Oklahoma, living on a fixed income, shared that she used to come every Friday after picking up her medication. It made me feel like I was still part of something, she said softly. But a few weeks ago, her local McDonald's closed. The nearest one is now 18 miles away. I only have $30 left for gas this week, she added. So I guess that's the end of that. There's something deeply unsettling about watching even the most basic comforts slip out of reach. McDonald's was never meant to be glamorous. That was the point. It was supposed to be there for everyone on good days, on hard days, when rent was late and the fridge was empty. A $5 meal was the last thing you could count on. Now, even that is being priced out of existence. In wealthier towns, you'll still find smiling workers handing out custom wraps and matcha smoothies. But in places like Toledo, Bakersfield, or Jackson, you'll see boarded windows and silent parking lots, signs that the last place where everyone felt welcome has quietly left. And maybe that is the hardest part, not the loss of a burger, but the feeling that the America you once knew is slowly slipping away and no one seems to notice. As we turn from McDonald's and look to the next chain on the brink, the question lingers in the air like the smell of fries in an empty store. If even the most familiar places can vanish without warning, then what's next? Number 2, Subway. What if one day soon, even the simplest sandwich could also make your wallet ache? There was a time not long ago when Subway meant a full stomach and a decent price. You could walk in with $5 and walk out with a warm sandwich stacked with protein, vegetables, and sauces of your choice. For college students, night shift nurses, construction workers on lunch break, Subway was the closest thing to healthy fast food they could afford. But by 2025, that $5 sandwich lives only in memory. The average price has crept up to $9, and in some cities, $10. In 2023 alone, Subway shuttered over 500 stores across America. Most of them weren't in affluent suburbs or busy tourist areas. They were in dying strip malls, forgotten corners of working-class towns, and the back hallways of public universities where foot traffic used to mean survival. Many people used to eat Subway almost every day because it was the only thing they could afford. But now, as inflation eats away at their fixed income, they've been forced to turn to cheaper foods they know are slowly harming their health. Because when Subway disappears, it takes more than sandwiches. It takes away one of the last remaining options that felt fresh, affordable, and slightly better than the greasy, deep-fried alternatives. A meal that didn't require guilt, just $5 and a little hope. For people on the edge, low-income workers, part-time students, retirees trying to stretch Social Security. These disappearing stores are a warning sign. They mark a retreat, a withdrawal of something essential, the dignity of choice. Meanwhile, there are people who don't have to line up for the last store in town or scrape together coins for a sub. The distance grows wider not just in income, but in what is available to eat, where, and for how much. And if even a sandwich is now out of reach for the very people it once served, what kind of dream are we offering the next generation if McDonald's vanishing shook our sense of comfort? Subway's downfall cuts even deeper because it takes away the idea that health, choice, and dignity should be affordable. Number 3, Burger King. What happens when the slogan that once promised freedom, "Have it your way," starts to sound like a privilege for the only one who has money for decades? Burger King meant something simple but powerful choice. Want double cheese? No onions. A different sauce on each bite. It was yours, for just a few bucks. Everyday Americans could feel like kings, if only for a lunch break. But today, that illusion is slipping away. Not because anyone said no, but because the prices quietly did. When a combo meal reaches $14, what used to be your way becomes whatever you can afford. The crown is still there, but fewer and fewer can wear it. In 2023 alone, over 400 Burger King locations quietly shut down across the United States. The average cost of a combo meal has climbed to $14. That is not a lunch anymore, it is half a tank of gas, or a day's worth of groceries for some families. A retired truck driver in Pennsylvania used to take his wife out to Burger King once a week, not because they loved fast food, but because it was a small moment of routine, of togetherness, of normalcy. Now, they split one combo to save money. It used to be our little thing, he says. Now it just feels heavy. The closures hit more than just customers. They ripple outward through the 17-year-olds looking for their first paycheck, the single mothers holding down part-time shifts at the fryer, the young men trying to stay off the streets and inside a kitchen. Burger King used to be a gateway, a place where people started over, or at least started something. But now, when those doors close, so do the chances, in richer areas. Other options bloom. The illusion of choice remains just not for everyone. Meanwhile, working-class families watch familiar places disappear. One by one, the dining tables shrink. A meal becomes not a choice, but a compromise. This is not just about jobs or fast food. It is about something deeper, a system that quietly decides which communities deserve convenience, dignity, and comfort, and which do not. In a society where only what is profitable survives, what happens to those who are simply trying to live? We once told ourselves that America was a place where anyone, no matter their start, could choose their path. But if even choosing a burger is no longer possible without sacrifice, what is left of that promise? And if you once worked a closing shift at Burger King, or grabbed dinner between college lectures, or bought a Happy Meal just to make your niece smile, maybe you're starting to feel it too. Maybe it is not just the restaurants disappearing. Maybe it is something else, something more human, something we are not sure how to get back. Number 4, checkers and rallies. Imagine working a 12-hour shift, your back aching, your stomach empty, just to realize that even a burger is now out of reach. That is what's happening across working-class America. Checkers and rallies never needed flashy ads or modern dining rooms. Its value was simple. It showed up for people who couldn't wait in long lines, couldn't spend $10, and couldn't afford to be ignored. It was the drive-thru for the night shift, the pit stop for the delivery worker, the go-to for the tired, the broke, the uncelebrated. It was fast, filling, and for a while enough. But that quiet promise is fading fast. In 2023, checkers and rallies saw a 16% drop in revenue. The hardest hits came from the southeast states like Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia, where the streets are filled with long-haul truckers, warehouse laborers, and HVAC techs grinding through 14-hour days. The costs of meat, buns, cooking oil, everything have surged. Staffing shortages pile on. And one by one, the windows go dark. No announcements, no goodbyes. A driver from Alabama summed it up plainly. I don't need fancy. I need hot. I need fast. I need full now. He eats cold sandwiches from a gas station, hunched in the cab of his truck, still sweating from the road. What's being lost isn't gourmet, it's the last remaining thread of basic comfort. A meal that says, you matter, you're working hard, you deserve something warm before mile 200. When these stores vanish, it's not just calories that disappear, it's the acknowledgement that someone out there saw the working class as more than a number. The wealthier zip codes still have bright drive-thrus, spotless food courts, and endless delivery options. But in towns where payday still means lining up at the ATM, the choices are shrinking, sometimes down to zero. This is not about fast food. It's about something we rarely say out loud, that for millions of people, a $6 combo is not a treat. It is the only thing keeping them from eating junk or eating nothing at all. And when even that disappears, there's no cushion left, no backup plan. Just a growing silence where a working person used to grab dinner. So we should ask not just what is gone, but who we're leaving behind, if the last cheap burger goes. Who's still serving the ones who never stopped working? Number 5, Popeyes. In 2025, a single spicy chicken combo at Popeyes costs more than what millions of Americans have left after paying rent for the week, just $11. That is the new price tag for something that once brought warmth, comfort, and dignity to the working class. Not a feast, not a luxury, just a box of crispy chicken, a biscuit, and a side what used to be the small joy people clung to when everything else fell apart. But now, even that is slipping away. Popeyes has seen ingredient costs spike by 23%. The number of combo meals sold has plummeted. Franchisees, already strained by razor-thin margins and inflexible corporate rules, are pulling back. In cities like Detroit, Baltimore, and Jackson, locations are quietly closing. No warning, no farewell deals, just dark windows and a silence where once there was steam, crunch, and the smell of something hot and fried. Popeyes was never gourmet. That was never the point. It was emotional food. For seniors who could not cook, for shift workers who needed something filling, for those who did not have family dinners or stocked kitchens but still wanted something that felt whole. And now, what once cost $5 has doubled. For many, but that simple combo now sits just out of reach on a digital menu they scroll past before turning off the screen. The disappearance is not just physical, it is psychological. When even fried chicken becomes a financial stretch, what message does that send to the people who have carried this country's labor on their backs for decades? What replaces it? Processed snacks, canned soup, skipped meals. The quiet descent from eating to merely surviving. Meanwhile, high-end bistros fill tables. Delivery services run non-stop in affluent neighborhoods. Comfort food, it turns out, is still alive, just not in the places where comfort is needed most. And what does that say about us when a piece of chicken once shared on porches, eaten from cardboard boxes on cold nights, handed to kids as a little treat, now becomes a symbol of what some people can have and others can only remember? This is not just a shift in prices. It is the slow erasure of small joys, of familiar tastes, of places that once said, "You may be tired, you may be broke, but you still matter." When even the food of comfort carries a price tag too heavy to lift, maybe what we are really losing is not chicken, but the last fragile link between poverty and dignity. Number 6, Hardies. There was a time when a working class family could walk into a fast food joint, order 4 combo meals, and still have enough change left over for gas. In 2025, that same outing at Hardies could drain nearly $50 and leave parents silently doing math in their heads while their kids stare at a menu they can no longer afford. A family meal. Just burgers, fries, drinks. No frills, no stakes. Yet suddenly, it feels like a luxury. Hardee's was once the comfort zone for families who just wanted to share a warm meal without shame. Plastic booths, crayons on the tray liner, refills, and a laugh or two. It was simple, it was ordinary, and that made it precious. Now a single combo at Hardee's averages nearly $13. Multiply that by 4, add tax, and the total climbs close to $50. The franchise model is falling apart. Revenue has plunged. Stores are closing quietly, one after another, especially in suburban areas where incomes have stayed flat while everything else has gone up. What is left behind is more than just shuttered buildings. It's an absence of ritual. Families still want to eat together, still need places that welcome noise, spilled ketchup, and the quiet pride of being able to treat the kids. But Hardee's, once that place, is losing relevance not because people stopped loving it, but because it stopped fitting into their lives. The brand never changed. The world around it did. And in that mismatch, something fragile is breaking. In homes across St. Louis, Bakersfield, Youngstown, families look at fast food not as a convenience but as a budget threat. Do we go out or pay the electric bill? Do we split 2 combos instead of buying 4? Do we just stay home? Again, when fast food becomes a negotiation, family connection begins to fray. The table is still there, but fewer reasons remain to gather around it. While upscale chains flood screens with avocado toast and charred aioli, places like Hardee's are quietly labeled as outdated. But maybe the problem is not with the brand, but with the society that stopped designing itself around the people who built it. If the idea of sitting down for a simple meal with your children becomes a calculation, then what does family-friendly really mean anymore? Number 7, Jack in the Box. Imagine being hungry, running late, and realizing that your usual breakfast sandwich now costs nearly $8. You check your wallet, then quietly walk away. That's what a morning at Jack in the Box looks like for more and more working Americans. Once known as the quick fix for the early shift, Jack in the Box offered exactly what people needed: a hot breakfast, fast service, and a price that fit inside a working class budget. No fuss, no seats, just a burger, a small coffee, and a few minutes of peace before the day began. But now, even that small comfort is evaporating. In 2024, the chain closed 5% of its locations nationwide. Profits dropped sharply. Prices climbed. A breakfast combo that once cost $5 now flirts with $8, all while quality declines slower service. Bland coffee, lukewarm food. Jack in the Box is losing not just revenue, but its identity. And with that loss, something larger is slipping away. In places like Las Vegas, Bakersfield, or Tulsa, early morning workers, janitors, nurses, night shift casino staff no longer see Jack in the Box as reliable. One more stop they used to count on, gone. One more corner of the city where the working class quietly disappears. It's not just about inflation, it's about disconnection. The brand that once stood beside those waking up early and pushing through exhaustion now feels like it belongs to a different world. One where breakfast is a luxury, not a lifeline, for many. This isn't just a price change, it's a message, one that says you're not the customer we're building for anymore. And when a company that built its name on affordability starts catering to convenience over compassion, Who Gets Left Behind America used to say work hard, and you'll be okay. But when even a breakfast sandwich costs what some people make in an hour, maybe that promise is fading. One receipt at a time. Because when a hot meal at dawn becomes a question mark, what happens to the people who have no time for questions, only hunger? Number 8, Del Taco. What happens when even the cheapest hot meal near campus is no longer cheap and no longer near for years? Del Taco was the quiet ally of the struggling student, the tired worker, and the low-income family just trying to stretch $1. A warm burrito for $3 or $4. Not gourmet, not trendy, but fast, filling, and most importantly, affordable. It was the kind of place you didn't have to think twice about. You walked in, placed your order, ate your food, and walked out with your wallet still intact. But in 2025, that rhythm is broken. The company has shut down 20% of its locations nationwide, and quarterly revenue has dropped by 7%. Campuses that once buzzed with students grabbing a late-night snack now sit in silence. Industrial zones that relied on Del Taco's quick service have lost one of their few reliable food options, and as prices rise, even the once beloved burrito feels like a stretch. $8 now, in many places. No longer a default, no longer a guarantee. It would be easy to blame inflation, but the deeper issue is Del Taco's growing disconnect from the very people who built its name, while competitors adapt modernizing menus, offering plant-based options, updating interiors. Del Taco has struggled to evolve. Its Tex-Mex identity feels dated in a food landscape that prizes novelty and Instagram-worthy plates. As tastes change, the chain remains stuck watching as the crowd it once served so well slowly walks away. But what do those people walk toward? For many college students and entry-level workers, there is no second option. They do not have full kitchens. They do not have time between class and work to cook. They cannot afford Chipotle or Cava or the latest fusion bowl, and so they eat leftovers, or skip meals, or stock up on cup noodles. The kind of food that fills the stomach but drains the spirit. Del Taco's decline isn't just about sales, it's about survival, about what it means when one of the last affordable, accessible food sources quietly vanishes from the places that need it most. A 21-year-old nursing student in Texas put it simply, Del Taco used to be where I went after clinicals. Before my shift at the bookstore, now I just go home. I heat up rice. There's no time, no money. The lights outside the Del Taco near her campus flicker at night, but inside, the grill is cold. The promise of a quick, hot, cheap meal gone with the lease. And the question that lingers is haunting in its simplicity if students can't even afford a burrito. What future are we building? Meanwhile, food halls thrive in gentrified neighborhoods. Apps deliver $18 tacos to apartment buildings with rooftop gyms. But in communities built on minimum wage and maximum effort, even a $6 meal now feels like a gamble. Del Taco may not have been perfect, but it was there, and now that it is leaving, we are forced to ask who is still building for the poor, who is still cooking for the tired, who is still feeding the future, because when a hot burrito becomes a memory instead of a meal, what else will vanish before anyone says a word? Number 9. Church's Chicken. What happens when a $10 bill no longer buys you a hot meal, but only the memory of one Church's Chicken was never glamorous? It did not try to be. For decades, it existed for a single reason: to serve the people others overlooked. With $10 in your hand, you could walk out with enough fried chicken, golden fries, and a cold drink to feed two. It was fast. It was satisfying. And for many working Americans, it was the last place where a full meal didn't come with a feeling of guilt or exclusion. But that door is closing fast. In 2024, Church's Chicken shuttered more than 15% of its stores. Profits fell 9%. Customers began to disappear, first quietly, then altogether. The reasons were everywhere: rising ingredient costs, outdated menus, and a steady drop in quality. One customer in Atlanta put it plainly: the chicken isn't crispy anymore, and now it costs more than KFC. For the working poor, that single sentence is more than a food critique. It is a death sentence for affordability. When Church's fails, the fallout is not just commercial, it is deeply human. Because what disappears isn't just a brand, it's a ritual. A pause. A small sense of control in a life where control is rare. A fried chicken meal is not a luxury. It is not indulgence. For millions, it is the warm bite that bridges a brutal shift and a quiet night. But with Church's on the decline, those bites are disappearing, and in their place, instant noodles, white bread, tap water. It is not that people do not want to eat better. It is that they no longer have anywhere to go. Church's Chicken was supposed to be that last safety net, the one that did not ask for much, only that you showed up. But now, with stores vanishing and prices climbing, that safety net is unraveling, and no one is rushing to sew it back. Meanwhile, fast food giants invest in sleek digital menus and $16 artisan sandwiches. They talk about experience and modern flavor palettes. But who's still feeding the man who cleans those restaurants after hours? The bus driver heading home after a double shift, the retired woman trying to stretch her check. Church's used to be for them. And when a society stops feeding the very people who build it, clean it, drive it, and hold it together, we should all be afraid of what comes next. Because the hunger today is not just about food, it is about erasure, about stripping away the basic dignity of eating something hot, something shared, something earned. So what do we call a country where even a piece of fried chicken is priced out of reach? Maybe it's not hunger that hurts most. Maybe it's the growing belief that no one even sees it happening. Number 10, A&W. What do we lose when a place once filled with laughter? Root beer foam. And the smell of fresh fries becomes nothing more than an empty parking lot. A&W was never just about food. It was where the week ended with greasy fingers, sticky smiles, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing you did something small, something warm, for your family. Fathers brought their sons, grandparents treated grandkids. And for a generation growing up in the suburbs and small towns of America, A&W was the taste of belonging. But in 2025, that taste is slipping away, once a staple of weekend tradition. A&W is now vanishing quietly from the routines of American families. It is not because of scandal or catastrophe, but something even harder to fix: irrelevance, with a dated menu, little innovation, and a brand identity stuck in the past. A&W has struggled to stay visible in a marketplace obsessed with the new. Young customers have moved on. They want noodles, boba, bold flavors, and sleek, digital-first dining in their world. A root beer float isn't nostalgic, it's just old. And so, A&W's booths sit empty, its counters silent. The jukeboxes that once played for kids now echo back nothing but static. The losses are measurable: shrinking revenue, aging locations, fewer return visits, but the true damage goes deeper, because when a place like A&W disappears, it takes more than customers. It takes away shared memory, the kind you do not post on social media, but carry in your bones. It takes away the first time your kid learned to order by himself, the first date with your high school sweetheart, the Sunday afternoons your family always agreed on, even when everything else was falling apart. Now, when parents suggest going back, the answer is often a shrug or worse, a laugh. A&W, the kids ask. Why? And in that moment, something cuts deep. Not because the food was amazing, but because it was yours, because it was constant, because it was one of the last places where generations could meet halfway over burgers and fries and feel like equals at the same table, in a time when families are being split not just by distance, but by algorithms and inflation. The loss of spaces like A&W feels bigger than just business. It feels like forgetting. Meanwhile, luxury burger chains flourish. Food trends rise and fall on apps. And a culture of premium experience leaves behind the communities that once found joy in the simple, the modest, the known. So what happens when nostalgia is priced out of the future? When even shared memories get divided by zip codes and credit limits? Maybe the greatest threat to unity isn't political. Maybe it is the quiet extinction of the places that once made us feel like family. A burger is never just a burger. It is a memory, a resting spot for the working class, a lifeline for students juggling shifts in school, a familiar bench where the elderly still feel remembered. Fast food chains like McDonald's, Popeyes, Subway, Church's, or A&W were never meant to be glamorous. They were meant to be there on late nights, between double shifts, after long drives home. They were part of everyday survival, part of what held people together. But now, under the shadow of recession, even these quiet cornerstones are cracking, stores are closing, prices are rising, and for many, the last affordable meal is slipping through their fingers, one receipt at a time. These chains may not disappear all at once, but if the economy keeps tightening, they might vanish just as quietly as they once appeared. A light turned off, a menu erased, a space once full, now hollow. So now we ask, when was the last time you sat down at one of these places? Which brand still feels like home to you? And which one do you fear will disappear next? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your story may not just be yours, it might be the quiet, collective dream of millions still trying to hold on. in a country that's changing faster than anyone expected.